I got to record. Oh, that would have been disastrous. Okay. Okay. So, you know, I just want to go live today. Just want to kind of do a little bit of a little extra teaching, kind of a review, but also a big announcement at the end. What we're going to do for everyone here in Freedom's neighborhood, or friends, or anyone who wants to join, to be honest with you, as we get into what we're going to talk about a little bit. I'm going to forewarn everyone. I got naked kids running around. I'm sure we're going to get, what do they call it? Like a naked run past me every once in a while on top of the bed.
As long as it's not naked adults, we're okay.
No, we're going to
got to keep it G-rated, or at least PG.
We're going to try. So for those of you on Facebook Live, Margaret's on Zoom. So sometimes if she talks, I'll reiterate what she says again, just so you guys can hear what's going on, because there is some people on. So let's review a little bit why we started Freedom's Neighborhood, why we have some other Facebook group, meetup groups and Facebook groups online. It all started with a journey I took, that Margaret took, where we understood that for us to make a change in our life, for us to do the things we wanted, for us to talk about the voice that's inside and to ascend to the levels that we wanted, it wasn't about changing our habits or our actions. We learned that it was about changing the narrative in our head and our belief system about ourselves. And that belief system about ourselves, if you guys have learned, is driven by the influences of our life, okay? I promise to talk slower today. I have a big sign above my computer that says slow down. So we can watch this on normal speed today. And when we can change or eliminate our own former limits, we can start to achieve and become what we've always wanted, all right? We're not held back, so to speak, by our own thoughts, actions, and behaviors, right? So it also allowed us, for Margaret and I, to serve the population during a very difficult time, but it became so much more for both of us. And Margaret can certainly speak about that. We love doing it, right? We don't get paid for this. And if you look at the hours that we have put into this and the hours of preparation, it hasn't even occurred to Margaret and I when we looked at it that it seems like that much time, because it's been truly serving in that aspect for both of us. In the world that we have currently, you know, it's a very alpha male driven society. Excuse me for a second. Yes.
We're not going somewhere.
No. And there's so much influence in our lives that we don't even know. And for you females watching, you have been taught, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but you've been taught to serve others and get your how you feel about yourself, your self-worth from giving to others. And then it's a great thing. But if we teach you to serve and take care of yourself first, everything else flourishes, right? You are the soil, as we've talked about. If I cultivate the soil, the flower grows better. But in modern society, there's so much what we would consider like spiritual wanda panda everywhere, right? And we teach that. We teach it from a different perspective because society has taught us to think and believe one way. And if we are the most overweight, depressed, self-medicated, more anxious, more everything society than we've ever been, and in this time period, it's on steroids, then we need to start having people think differently. Margaret, I mean, you please chime in on that, on anything. But, you know, I understand inherently that some of the stuff we say, people say, oh, that makes sense. But do you do what we say? Right. Do you do the tactics and lessons that we do? Right. Hold on, Ben. Yes. Yeah. What? Okay, thanks. Okay. All right. I love the 4-year-olds. Okay. All right.
They're innocent and precious.
One thing Mark and I are going to do is we're going to continue taking people in this direction, right? We're going to continue teaching what we know to everyone so that they can live their best life. So no matter where the world goes or what we do, we're going to continue on this journey. We're going to continue giving away the stuff for free. But at the same time, we know that if you don't have accountability in the factor, if you don't feel safe, if you don't feel heard, and you don't have certain people like us helping you call you out on language that you think you know you have or don't have, call you out on the review your direction, things that you're not doing that you need to do to serve you, and focus on the micro cycles of your day, then it will take triple as long just by listening to us every day to get to where you need to go. But we need you to go from A to E, A to F, etc., on a faster track. And we need you to break up with us at some point. And that's the truth. We're not in the realm of coaching and helping people so they're with us forever. We're in the business of getting out of people, right? And that's super important. Like, we need to break up, and it needs to be a great breakup, right? It's not going to be sad. It's not going to be depressed. It's going to be fabulous because you're fabulous finally, right?
And
so,
can I share a quick analogy here? Because one thing that, and Chris has talked about this, the culture is actually, like, in order to do this, you actually have to swim upstream. You have to swim against the current, swim against, excuse me, a culture that is keeping you in that alpha male, mindset. So the idea, just to continue with the water analogy, because we've used this before, is, we want you to surf to shore. But sometimes if you've ever been a parent with a little kid at the beach, you need someone to help them push them into the wave. So the idea is I'm commingling analogies here, but the idea is to get someone to help you while you're trying to do something that's really working against us, and that's the culture. So get someone in the trenches with you, someone in the water with you, who can help, coax you in a new direction, because it is hard to do. Excuse me. It is hard to do by yourself in the beginning until you get the hang of it, until you get your own rhythm.
Margaret, that's great. And Margaret's losing her voice today a little bit. She must.
I know. I got to drink my water here.
So Margaret talked about influence. She talked about needing someone to push you in the wave a little bit when you need to get in, when you're a little kid and you're afraid of it, right? And, we talk about, there are a lot of things we say and a lot of things we teach that seem the same, but there is a evolution of the circle that we teach, right? Your circle of influence. Your circle of influence is built from the core center of yourself. But it all stems from these things, right? But a lot of times you don't hear or see what you're saying. So, what you tell yourself every day, and this is true, you go a lifetime without knowing all the bad things that you're saying about yourself in a day. You just don't hear it. So having the accountability and using some of the techniques that we teach and having us review and bringing awareness to it matters, right? And here's why. It's all about your imagination, if you think about it, because we make shit up. Like, we make it up, all right? And as adults, we don't think we imagine, but that's all we do. Like, all the influences we incur every day into our subconscious, not just every day, but for our entire lifetime, is our own perception, right? The socioeconomic influence and our circle of influence helps form our perception. But the single greatest influence you have every day is you. The choices you make, whether it's to think fearfully, think faithfully, think negatively, think about the past, like, that's a choice, okay? Initially, we don't think it's a choice until we teach you that you can't have the choice. Because listen to this stat, 60,000 to 100,000 thoughts you have each day. 80% of those thoughts are reoccurring, roughly, okay? They're the same ones you have every day, over and over and over again. We call this, which you've heard it, it's our subconscious narrative. Our subconscious holds 95% of our thoughts, right? What you are telling yourself about you, about your own potential or lack thereof, and about what you are and what you can or can't achieve, you're in charge of, okay? people have influenced you to think certain things and to think certain ways, but you are in charge of that. And here's the thing, you have been in society, you've been handed this bowl of make it, or a bowl of fake it till you make it, right? I don't want you to fake it, okay? I want you to be have pure happiness, not fake happiness, like everything's okay because you're masking your sadness. I don't want those of you that don't mask your sadness by being overly happy, those of you that are truly depressed and sad and come out, I want you to be able to handle that, own it, and turn it into your greatest strength, right? We don't want to admit to other people, or let alone admit to ourselves, that we're actually shitty to ourselves. And I know this sounds like Debbie Downer, but I'm not. I'm just being honest, right? Because when we are by ourselves, we always feel we're alone. Even the people who are always with people, all the people who you think have everything, when they're at them, studies shown, surveys done, they feel alone and by themselves, even when they're married or with family. So we have to open this can of worms a little bit, right? You may not want to realize it, but your subconscious is dwelling on something. What it dwells on is that 80% of the 60,000 or 100,000 thoughts that are reoccurring to you every day. And that matters for a variety of reasons, okay? So pay attention, right, to this statement or these statements. The perception you have of yourself, what you believe in the world, what you see yourself in your own perception, you don't see the world as it is. You see it as you see it. That's why everyone has a different perception, right? That's why we have different thoughts and feelings on political parties, on the coronavirus. So we all have these. Like your perceptions create your belief system. And it's the single greatest, hardest thing to change, because people don't want to change because they get scared of it, because it gets hard in their brain. It gets overwhelming. They start overthinking it. And once they start understanding that those, what we would call bound nature thoughts, are influenced from your life, then we can start handling them and dealing with them and changing them, right? So our belief system, who you are, is built off your own perception of self, which is part of the narrative in your head, which is currently absolute to you until you hear things that we're teaching. Your subconscious believes it, and your belief system drives your perceptions, right? What your perception is how you see yourself. So how do you see yourself right now? Ask yourself. What you believe is possible for yourself is your perception. If you want to believe something should be different and you want to attain something different, you can't change the habits and actions. You got to start changing your belief system, but you got to do it every day. You got to have accountability to do it every day. You have to do it a certain way, right? How many of you watching this replay or on here believe why you can't do something? Such as I can't lose weight, I can't save money, I can't have a good relationship, I can't stay in a relationship. Margaret, what else?
Can't get better. Can't get
better. I can't feel better.
Or that you're always going to be stuck.
I'm always going to be stuck.
Those are some of mine.
I can't stop worrying. I'm always depressed. I'm going to be depressed forever. I always have anxiety. These are the expectations which drive your habits, actions, and behaviors towards that, right? Your belief system. And I know I'm saying this a lot, but it drives your expectations. It's all in the subconscious brain, right? You don't even know it's there because you've lived a lifetime with the same thoughts, right? It just become as is. And all this is indoctrinated by your influence. So we need to undo it. We need you to be aware of it. I know I said this, but why do we choose the Dorito over the apple all the time? Right? We know what's right. Then ask yourself why. And don't instead of putting the Dorito on the apple, insert what you keep choosing over the thing you know you should choose. Okay? Because it's driven by that subconscious narrative. And if we don't learn to change that narrative, where are you going to be in 6 months? Right now. Right? It's like the classic question I ask everyone when they're debating if they want to be happy or not. Okay, and I say happy because you insert whatever you want to change, you achieve it, you become happier. And I know it's going to become happier because whatever we're working on, we're going to change the whole narrative, which changes everything. So ask yourself this question: why do some people become successful in the area they are in and some don't? Why do some people become a doctor when others don't? Why do some people save more money than others don't? Why do some people have better relationships than others and some don't? You just have to insert your narrative into that equation and ask yourself, are they just luckier? Or is their subconscious story over what they achieve better? Okay, because you're starting to play against their highlight reel to your worst reel. And that's true, right? That's one of the essences that I loathe about social media. And I know Margaret can talk about this. It is a comparative area where we look at everyone's highlight reel because highlight reel, and we compare our worst reel. Right? Do the successful people have a better narrative? In that area, they probably do. Do successful people have it all together in every area? No. We all have stuff. There's no perfect. We all have stuff. And when you start doing this, you continue working on it forever, right? And if we think, or you say to yourself, successful people generally have it all together, you are judging them in their one aspect of being great or success as their whole life is success. That success certainly was met with tons of failure, but they had a dream, they had a goal, and it was driven. And that it doesn't matter what happened, it drove them there. Yours is no different. Theirs is just a different goal, right? We just see theirs because it's probably a financially viable, in the news type of goal. So, but how do you change anything if you don't know what's wrong, right? And there's nothing wrong with you, okay? That's kind of a poor language to say, but how do we get from point A to point B across the river, as I like to say? All right, well, let's think of it this way. And Margaret, please chime in on this. You know why? Because Margaret, she does this really well, all right? This is like a Margaret strength. If you were given one car in your life, how would you handle that car? Okay? Would you treat that car beautifully? Would you love it like it's a person? Would you make sure everything ran well so you could just keep that car running for as long as it possibly can? Because once it's done, it's done. You don't get another car, right? Well, that's you, right? You only get one body, you get one life, you get one brain. But here's the thing. We can go in there and we can change that 4-cylinder engine. We can replace it with a 6 and an 8-cylinder. We can upgrade that sucker.
Some of us take better cares of our cars than we do ourselves.
Totally.
You know?
It's 100%. Okay. And coming from a 25-year fitness professional, I'm going to say this. In fitness, nutrition, we take care of your body. Okay. Supposedly. But your heart doesn't drive your head. Your physiology doesn't drive your brain. Your brain drives everything. It should be personally brain trainers. That should be the first thing taught. How to get your mind right so that car you drive for the rest of your life runs optimally. And then as you get better at it, as you get older, you go from a 4-cylinder to a 6-cylinder to an 8-cylinder to a V12. You keep upgrading the horsepower of your brain. Right? One of the ways I described when people came into fitness was I said, and it kind of works here, if you were going to get on that one bicycle that you're going to ride the rest of your life, get one bike, and that front wheel is crooked and it's broken. Would you get on that bike and try to ride that bike again with that crooked wheel? What would happen? It eventually breaks, right? You fall off. Well, when you have that one area you really want to work hard on, that's like a crooked wheel in your head. Okay? We gotta replace that wheel so you ride smoothly, safely, and get where you want to go from A to B. Right?
And I just want to add that you don't throw out the bike if the wheel is crooked. You don't call the bike bad or broken or it'll never be able to ride again. What were some of those words you said at the beginning of the call? You don't say those things about the bike. You just fix the wheel. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you don't need to throw yourself throw yourself out in the process. Just realize I've got a crooked wheel. I'm going to fix it.
Mm-hmm. What would we do if we brought our car into the mechanic shop and the mechanic just stood at your car and tried to fix it, looked at it, and just said, this is what I think's wrong. You'd probably walk out of there, right? But that's what we do. We don't do what the mechanic does. We don't open that hood and do a diagnostic check. We don't look through everything and try to find the one thing. That's what we need to do. That's what we teach with the 4 pillars. That's exactly what we do, right? We don't throw the bicycle out. We don't take and scream at the bicycle bad words that you're not good looking enough. Your tires are too fat now. I can't ride you anymore, right? That was kind of dirty, wasn't it? I apologize for that statement. Well, so,
Okay.
and there's what's going on with us as a society that we do it, right? It's just the narrative in our head, right? It's the story. It's change your story. That subconscious that you've built your whole life, that you've strengthened, that you keep telling yourself over and over, we need to fix. There will always come, those things will always come in line, or the things that we want to change in life will come in line when we change the narrative. And we go upstream and we think about it. We get under the hood and we change the spark plugs. We change the fuel pump, right? So I ask you right now, what is the one thing in your life you want to change? Pick one thing, right? Fitness, money, relationships, not feeling depressed or sad or anxious. All right, now, second thing, because here's one thing you'll find pretty quick. Paint a picture in your head when you have achieved that. What is it? Is it the dress you want to wear and look good in? Is it a size smaller? For you guys, I'm sure it's, I want big biceps or 6-pack abs, right? Is it that you just want to be happy with who you are and love who you are?
Or just feel good. I know that was for me. I just wanted to feel better.
Like, feel great. Like you want to feel effortlessly free, right? Like for me, it was not feeling like I was tied to so many different things, and be happy in life, right? We call this exercise, imagine your outcome. Like it is a process of how a lot of doctors become doctors. I say doctors because it usually for them is a lifelong dream, right? Or lawyers too. Like they go through this lifelong journey to get where they want to go. I know I have worked with some kids from high school to college, now to grad school to be psychologists. That's been their lifelong dream, right? They have a goal, they drive, and there's ups and downs. How do we manage that? 4 pillars. I would, for what you want to become, I teach this, okay? And imagine your outcome. I intentionally tell people 3 to 4 times a day, intentionally stop your day and take 10 seconds and replay that movie of what you're doing over in your head every time. 3 to 4 times a day. Use your phone. Change the alarm so it's not one you use all the time. It's a new one. And here's why you do it. Don't think about trying to change anything in your world, because what you need to do is change the narrative. To change the narrative and imagine your outcome, you're seeing what you are. You start believing it. That starts changing your perception of who you are, because you're feeling that, because you're taking a moment to digest the good in it. And it starts changing your belief system. And then your actions, habits, and behaviors start mimicking it. That's one little thing. But when you're asked to do it every day, 3 to 4 times a day for 10 seconds, it matters. But what do? We put the cart before the horse every time, right? We need to change the narrative to help stop our thinking the way we think, right? There's this line, you can't achieve it to believe it, or you can't achieve what you don't believe. Like that is true. You have to believe it, but there's more to it, right? There's more to it, to your subconscious brain. You have to convince your subconscious that it's actually happening, right? So you can think it and you can believe it, but there are some parts to it that we have to repeat over and over again, because just saying it once, just what they would say manifesting it once, just doesn't happen. The idea of thinking it over and over and over again and doing things that get you thinking in a positive light. So when you do the imagination theater, you look at life positively, which continues you in that direction. It gets easier because everything we do is built around our subconscious narrative. If I can change that, it does. Right? Your subconscious narrative is like the end all be all of everything we do. All our successes, all our hurts, all our fails, but those fails and hurts that we take in a negative aspect, they're our best friends, right? Why do you think your subconscious accepts those 80% thoughts as truth? Because all the force we put in that old narrative is built on that 80%. Yeah. And we reinforce that 80% with our language. And though this whole talk is around that, the reason is because we need accountability to stay in the game to get it to change, right? If we went upstream to change the problem, it's not about willpower, right? Change the reason that willpower is necessary, change the narrative with relentless repetition. So the work to do it 3 times a day and you keep doing it starts happening. Right? We don't want to just repeat nonsensical affirmations, right? If I just believe it, will do. We need to put a look and feel and put it on repeat and perseverate on the good stuff and stop dwelling on the bad stuff or perseverating on the bad stuff, right? So here's what we're gonna do. Okay, in about a week or so, we don't have an exact date because we want to get at least 10 people to join us. We're gonna allow you to come in and join a small group in a week or so, where we're going to do 8 weeks. Okay, that's a long time. It's a short time in a long version. Okay, and what I mean by that is usually do 12 weeks with private, but we're going to do it in 8. Okay, we're going to teach you exactly how we coach, and we're going to coach you in a small group. Okay, so when people need to exact change in their life, when they need to have repetition, there is something that's really delicate to the subconscious brain that is powerful. And that is to feel safe in an environment, to be yourself, to be vulnerable, to be courageous in the area, to be able to say something and feel they're heard, right? You need to feel inclusion in a group. That's why group programs work so well. We are going to give that to you, okay? 8 weeks. We're still gonna do all this stuff we're doing now, all right? This is on top of all the stuff that we're already doing. We're gonna do 8 weeks. We're gonna hold you accountable every day to do the work. We're gonna teach you how to do the work sequentially correctly. We are going to see the work. We are going to work with you on the work. We're gonna take your questions about the work because the questions are going to matter, especially your questions about yourself. Because this is about taking care of you now in a dialed-in fashion. That's
about let's say not just learning, but actually starting to apply with accountability.
Right, and the application is everything. Like Margaret and I know, and to a point, like we love doing this, but we want to do it now, and we want you to get something from it.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's what we're going to ask you to do. If you want to or you like more information about it, just comment below, okay? We certainly will talk to you about it as much as you can. We're not launching it just tomorrow or the next day. We're just gonna wait a little bit. We wanna get 10 people because we want an inclusive group, okay? Because it matters. It really matters, okay? To share, to be vulnerable, to be open to that is everything. And for those of you, by the way, who feel that is hard, coming from someone that was like never gonna happen. The moment I released from that in a group, everything changed for me. Margaret, do you give your experience just on the group aspect of that? Because for me, it was like, it's like literally like when they say the boulders or the boxes coming off your shoulders. That's how I felt.
It totally lifts something about sharing your story, those stories that you don't necessarily, that you've been keeping hidden. There's something about sharing it publicly that is so liberating. But here's the catch. And Chris mentioned it, you really have to do it in a safe setting. don't go share your stuff with people who aren't safe, because then it'll just reinforce the narrative that you've got to keep hiding. But it's sort of like lancing a boil. I mean, at some point you got to pop it. Like, you got to get that stuff out, and it needs to be out in a safe setting. And that's where, where you're going to put a Band-Aid over it afterwards. A safe environment where it's protected and not judged. So it's it's cathartic, and honestly, in my experience, absolutely necessary. Like, if you don't get it out, it will stay there. It'll just fester, and continue to drive the narrative. That subconscious narrative will continue to drive everything until it comes out. So it's a non-negotiable, in my opinion.
It is. So just to give you an example, as just these final thoughts, if you've been following the women's gymnastics stuff that's been going on between sexual abuse and now verbal and mental abuse with their coaches, across the board, every single gymnast that has come out and freed themselves of this secret of how they feel, how they were treated, the negativity themselves because of it, they are so much better because they did that. When we look at people who come forward about their thoughts, actions, and habits that were negative with themselves, they were able to release and excel and go on in life. But here's the thing, we're not just telling you to say anything. You're not to say anything. We're just asking you to answer questions. We're asking you to do the work. We're asking you to count your wins. I'm not asking you to on a piece of paper to tell your worst, deepest secrets. That's not what we're saying at all. We're going to ask you questions like, what was on your language this morning? Okay, we're going to teach you and really work with you on your bound nature traits, right? We're going to teach you to be able to look at your influence and start to handle change, to think of faith and not fear, right? We're going to continue to keep you in it every day in repetition mode, the way it works when we coach privately. But we're going to just do it in a group setting, because a lot of times in a group setting, it opens everything up. Okay, so Margaret, do you have any other final thoughts before we sign off here?
I think it's good stuff. I think I'll just add, for me, doing this in a group, knowing that I'm not alone in this is huge. It was very healing, very cathartic, again, to know that there are other people out there with the same stuff, or similar anyway. It's not, none of us are identical, but it's just very, like I said, very cathartic, very healing.
It is totally. And for people that go through programs, what we do, many times they jump into our group programs that we have because they know the group setting keeps them more accountable, but it's a good up for them, re-up, to get them back dialed in, because initially they fall off because there's not someone like Margaret and I following you constantly, making sure you're staying on the work. Because coaching, good coaching, remember, is keeping you accountable, calling you on your bullshit when you need to be called on it, calling out your language, but more importantly, we have both been there. We have been through private work. We've been through group work. We have been there. We have done it. We know what happens. We know how you feel. We understand the anxiety a little bit of doing something like that. We know how to work through it. We know how to eliminate your own limits of just getting into something like that. So please reach out, ask questions, private message us if you want. You don't have to put them on the comments here. Just let us know, right? We're here for you, but we really think it's time for you to take the next level of who you want to be, because it's about taking care of you first so that you can live the life that you truly want, and the people around you can really benefit from that as well. So please comment below, send us a private message, and we'll see everyone Monday at 10:15.
10:15.
Thank you for joining. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.